Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzales, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Something happened to us this weekend and I want to talk about it. We invited a friend of ours, Justin, over to our house to see the babies because he hadn't seen August since he was born. And then what happened?
Well, a lot of things got done.
Our house has been an absolute disaster for some period of time, at least compared to our standard of living before babies, right? And the thing I think that has been killing us the most is there's these like couple sections in our house that just have clutter.
Because they're high enough for Lincoln not to reach.
Right, so the baby's getting into things, he's grabbing stuff. What do? You take it away and you put it up. You put it somewhere he can't reach it.
Yep.
We have these like 3 hot spots right around our living room, family room area, just full of junk.
Oh, so frustrating. And, for me, knowing that someone was coming over, it's like, I guess I could muster up the energy because on a regular basis, I'm pretty exhausted just from breastfeeding and taking care of a toddler and working in the business and all the different things that I've got going on. And so sometimes I feel like I'm just existing. And it's nice to have that external motivation of timeline. There's a timeline, there's time pressure. There's also just the pressure of somebody coming over. And it was a great opportunity for us.
It really was. Yeah, I mean, how many times have we talked about, okay, when the babies go to bed, let's do this. I mean, even last night, I forget what it was that we said, we've taken all these toys out into the garage that still need to go up into the attic. And last night we're like, let's do this when the babies go to bed.
That's the last thing we want to do when they go to bed.
My God, just like have like 45 minutes with each other
if
before
we could have
we
some
have to go
time, right, some time together and
So you understand our plight. You understand our plight. Sometimes it requires somebody else coming over or something else. It's a person involved that gets your butt in gear and ready to make some moves.
Something out of the norm.
Something out of the norm. We were talking about before we recorded this, we're like, isn't it interesting how like when family's gonna come over, you don't bother with any of that stuff? Why?
Well, because I think it's to a certain point, they just know that you're struggling. They know that you're in it. And when other people come over, it's like, you can't help but judge, I guess, maybe, or feel like you're going to be judged. So there's a lot of stuff, like people-pleasing kind of stuff going on, I think, in that moment.
Right. Yeah, and then people outside of that circle, or maybe sometimes people that you look up to, like you wouldn't go to a business meeting with somebody that you really look up to and be totally unprepared.
No way.
Right? You want them to see you in the best light, and so you prepare and you maybe do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Absolutely.
Before you go to any other business meeting.
Yeah, sure.
So I think that there's certain people in our lives in different environments that make you want to step it up.
Correct.
And certain people that you just don't.
And we thank them.
We do. We do.
Yeah, so something simple, but a big deal. It gave me the motivation to kind of see past the clutter. There, like you said, there's the bar top that we have right near our kitchen that is between, transition between our kitchen and our living area. And it just always accumulates everything that's dangerous for Lincoln to touch, but he found it somehow.
Mm-hmm. Or like markers. How many markers and pens are up there at this point?
Oh my God, because he just loves to write on everything. Yes, we always say paper, but anyway, regardless, that's another point, probably another podcast. But there's so many things up there and they just don't belong. So having them organized somewhere else where they actually belong, having them in that place. We actually have locks on our doors now that can only be reached by somebody that can touch the top of the door jamb. So that's really helped. We have actual safety zones from our child that he cannot enter. So that's really good. But having that motivation was really nice because I was able to see through the clutter and just put them back where they went.
Yeah. There's a couple things that we noticed coming out of, post-COVID. We're like 4 years now after this crap. And what did a lot of people do during that time? Well, we stopped going to meetings and stuff out of the house. Like we stopped attending networking meetings that were in the morning entirely because we just so much loved our slow mornings. So then what are some of the consequences of that? Well, here we are, right? I love making fun of people dressed bad at Costco and stuff like that, right? Yeah. I've even posted about it on the internet, and people are like, wow, you must be an a-hole, right? I'm like, well, look, people shouldn't be wearing, their pajamas out at the grocery store. Well, there's also me, right? Leaving the gym, going to the grocery store in my pajamas, but also like not having meetings much anymore out of the house. Everything's on Zoom.
Right.
Sometimes we find ourselves at lunchtime and we haven't even gotten ready for the day. Also because having young children, sometimes they beat you in the morning. Not that they beat you, but they wake
beat
up.
You to getting up.
They
Yes.
beat you to
they're awake before, but they do beat you up a little bit.
Sometimes when they wake up before you, they really beat you up. And so like showers aren't a given.
No. So
So
that's actually why our showering has flip-flopped. I take a shower at night.
Yeah.
I'm not normally a night showerer, but that's kind of what has happened. So we switch things around. People are motivational to us, outside motivation. Like you said, sometimes even if I have a meeting, I've got a great top on, but I've got pajamas on the bottom. So I'm kind of, living in the both worlds of living and working at home. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff to be said for putting a meeting in your day somewhere because you're going to have to get ready, get out of the house, go do that thing.
Yeah. Similarly related, I had a conversation with our friend Andrew
Yes.
Melendres the other day, and he was talking about, training and going to the gym, but doing that without some kind of an event or a race or something that you're working towards can feel kind of empty.
Yes.
So it's like you put that thing in place, that event that you're going towards, and then all of the training becomes more meaningful, more important. I think something similar can be said with putting meetings or, having people over to your house or, marking out this time in your calendar for something that needs to be done. All of that leads to you stepping up.
Absolutely.
In meeting the challenge, even if you've been totally overwhelmed at home by your children. Sure. You're still going to rise to the occasion because now other people are depending on you. And I think that's kind of the point of what we're sharing and discovering just in our friend coming over is like, well, maybe there's ways we could use some of this more to our advantage.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think of it kind of like the Profit First stuff that we've talked about. That with Profit First, they have the different bank accounts that you set up. And you're using the same kind of mentality. You're going with the flow of your mentality as opposed to totally changing it and finding out what works for you. So if you're finding that you're in a slump at home because you don't get out, you don't see people, and your house you turn around one day and you're like, oh my gosh, how did this clutter just get here? Well, it didn't just appear. It appeared over time and you just got used to it. It just became invisible to you. And so, with money, sometimes money can become invisible. So that was one of the ways that I was able to see past maybe the struggles that we had around money and seeing how to use it. And so speaking about time and space in our homes, just finding a system that works for you, finding something that maybe brings awareness to the things that are invisible to you.
Yeah.
So if you have a pile of newspapers in your kitchen and it's there for a couple days, a week, it becomes invisible because you're not going to deal with that right now. And then how many other things pile up. But it can also be in business. We can have a ton of things in business. It could be something as simple as doing this task, but you're not the best at it. And you could totally hire for it. Have somebody else do that.
I mean, I'll give you a big example, right? So we hired 2 new team members recently.
Yeah.
And you know what I am never going to let happen? I am never going to let them run out of tasks and things to do.
Right?
Right? So I am now accountable to these people in such a way that, I am elevating what we are doing in our company in order to make sure that they have things to do, right? And that's just where that started. But now we're also thinking different because these people are here and we're delegating all this work.
And it's kind of like carving out this role, now we have the person to fill this thing, and now we can see, oh my gosh, we totally have the work to do this. And it might be work that just simply was not getting done, and it was over, above, and beyond what we wanted to do and need to do for our clients. But it could also just be the consistency of getting things done.
Well, and I think just the overall point and reason that we're recording this podcast today is because when you involve other people in your home and in your business, you start to show up in a different way than you did before.
Absolutely. It forces you to be and do different things. Be different and do different. This friend coming over, it forced us to decide, look around. How would I feel? How am I going to feel when this person walks in? The person was here for about 5 minutes. That was it. But still, they came into our home, and it's a safe space. And it can, it could be, maybe for your business, it could be letting a bookkeeper in.
Sure.
And the bookkeeper is going to see all the things that you do with your money or don't do. So you could feel just as exposed in that way. So when you're thinking, you might hear this and think, well, this doesn't really apply to me. Maybe it does in business, because maybe you're ashamed of something. Maybe you have some taxes that you didn't file, and maybe you didn't know how to do this thing. Maybe gross receipts here in New Mexico are a thing for you. There's so many different things where you're allowing somebody else to come into your sphere that you might feel ashamed of. So,
yeah. Well, we got a question for you. As you've been hearing recently, we're starting the discussions over on the website, babiesandbiz.com. Every single episode has its show notes attached to it. If you go to babiesandbiz.com / and you type in the episode number, it'll take you right to that show notes. Scroll to the bottom, there's the comments. Here's the community question for this week. We want to know, what is something you struggle to do without external motivation? For us, it's like cleaning the house. Sometimes even doing the laundry can feel like it, but it's like, guess what? I am not going to the gym wearing stinky clothes.
No way.
No way. Right, so those things definitely help keep me accountable. What's that version for you? We'd love to hear about it at babiesandbiz.com. We appreciate you for listening to today's episode. If you haven't already, please leave that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else that you're listening. With that, we appreciate you so much for listening in. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.